Hello, welcome to When Legends Talk, a book by the legend of Savage Machine, the original Mexican metal band from Northern California. Just a word of caution, this book contains topics and scenarios that may be triggering to some people. Discretion advised. Chapter 10. Porque me quieres? I became more and more intolerable and made things worse at home. Dad was practically a vegetable now, and Grandma didn't want me around, so she would send me off, and I would get passed around between my aunties, like I mentioned before. I was brought back to Grandma's and noticed that Dad was now unable to even hold up his own head. I would push his wheelchair around or climb onto his lap to cuddle with him, and his eyes would water. Later, he became like a vegetable with his arms and legs curled up and had to wear a diaper. One day, several of his siblings were there, including some whom I had lived with for a bit. I put my face in Auntie's lap and broke down when I saw Grandpa because I recognized that he came from so far away to see Dad. It forced me to understand that Dad was going to die. Grandpa took me with him to Mexico City. He worked at a school as a maintenance man. He and his brother-in-law lived in a tiny room on the campus where I ended up living as well for a while. Grandpa was able to get me into a couple of classes where I further learned to read and write. Auntie and her husband lived in Mexico City as well, and they would come visit me. I would play with their daughter, and Auntie would help me practice my times tables. I even made my first friend at that school. He was really into American rock and roll, which I had never heard before. He would give me clothing and food sometimes. I also made a girl who had different colored eyes. I thought that was the coolest thing ever in the history of the world. My friend invited me to come over one time, and we went to a local park like I hadn't seen before. His mom brought lunch for us, which I devoured like I hadn't eaten in 10 years. When I returned, I saw my mom waiting for me. I recognized her right away, even though I hadn't seen her in years. I ran into her arms, and the rest of the world disappeared while we cried our eyes out. Grandpa arranged for us to sleep in an empty room at the top of the school where I wet the bed like an overexcited puppy. Mom thought it was adorable, but yeah. Grandpa had called my mom and asked her to come pick me up because I belonged with her. That night, after Mom fell asleep, I cried on my own for a bit because I felt unworthy. I was ecstatic that Mom had come back for me to take me to be with her and my sisters, but was also terrified because everything I heard before that made me feel undeserving. I was sure one day I would do something to make her send me away like everyone else had done. It made me ask questions like, why would she come back for me? Why would she want me when nobody else does? How was I going to keep myself from fucking this up like I did everything else? At the same time, I felt like I had to get to know my mom again because I figured she was very different than when I knew her, since I too was vastly different person myself.
Ayúdame a escuchar lo que quieres decir. Ayúdame a sentir lo que quieres de mí. Ayúdame a sentir y a conocer cómo seguirte a ti. Ayúdame a sentir y a conocer cómo seguirte a ti. Yo no soy nadie que me quieres a mí. Yo no soy nadie que te pueda servir, porque me quieres a mí. Yo no soy nadie que te pueda servir. Yo no soy nadie que me quieres a mí, porque me quieres a mí. Tengo a mí, no me puedo ir. No quiero vivir si no estás junto a mí. Mi vida es un vacío que no puedo llenar. ¿Cómo seguir así? Mi vida es un vacío que no puedo llenar. ¿Cómo seguir así? Yo no soy nadie que me pueda servir. Yo no soy nadie que me quieres a mí, porque me quieres a mí. Yo no soy nadie que te pueda servir. Yo no soy nadie que me quieres a mí, porque me quieres a mí.